When I say that Pokemon is too big, I don't mean that the game is too ambitious or that there are too many Pokemon in the game, although we will be coming back to that. I mean the money printing machine that is the Pokemon company itself is too big. If you've been on the internet in the past week and have any interest in Pokemon at all, you've seen enough clips of bugs in Pokemon to make this guy cream his pants. Not to mention the plethora of valid criticism about removed features like not being able to turn off battle animations, no set mode, the shiny indicator from Arceus not being in the game, or the lack of modern quality of life improvements such as voice acting, being able to skip long dialogue cutscenes, and text for stat changes taking forever. The game did not release in its most favorable state, which is honestly a shame because underneath all of the performance issues and inconveniences lies probably the best Pokemon game ever made. That's why this video is coming out like 2 weeks late. Despite having started this script the day of release, I could not stop playing the game long enough to finish it. So now at this point, you probably fall into one of two camps. Either you're on the side saying, well, it's a Pokemon game, we don't expect it to be graphically good, or this is completely unacceptable for the highest grossing media franchise of all time, and it should have been delayed. Within these two statements lies the root of the problem. The games can never be delayed as a direct result of the Pokemon Company being the highest grossing media franchise of all time, and the fans simply don't care what state the game is in. Let me explain. Pokemon is not just a video game franchise. In fact, the video games that Pokemon produce only makes up about 20% of their total revenue. Let's break it down. There are four major parts to the Pokemon Company. We have the video games, we have the card game, we have the movies, TV shows, and manga, which we'll group together into one category. And then we have the Mac Daddy of them all, the licensed merchandise, which makes up nearly 70% of their total revenue. So this is a rough idea of how the Pokemon machine runs. We have the video game release, which acts as the initial spark that everything else revolves around. Its job is essentially to market all the new Pokemon that you can buy plushies for. And from there, we also get the new card game expansion, which has all the new Pokemon, as well as the setting for all of the anime and movies to come out, which acts as a sort of secondary marketing campaign. So with all these separate industries trying to synchronize a release date, you end up in a logistical nightmare with very little room for error. Because if the game gets delayed, you're delaying your merchandise, you're delaying your card game, you're delaying your anime, which means this small portion of your revenue, this 20% of your revenue, can potentially result in a cascading effect that makes you lose money in all of your other fields. The other effect of this machine is that it demands new Pokemon every generation, as it's a surefire way to sell tons of merchandise. And that's where the two pillars of this company start to clash. We have the main source of revenue, the merchandise, demanding more and more Pokemon, which in turn increases the scope of the games, which is the main catalyst of everything in the industry. So eventually something has to give. And it did. The games took the hit so that everything else can continue. The result was Sword and Shield's Dexit. Cutting down on the number of Pokemon is the best way to cut down on the scope of the games. And the sales of Sword and Shield proved that it would not be a problem. So now the question to answer with the release of Scarlet and Violet is, how rushed and unfinished of a state can the game release in before it ultimately hurts the bottom line? And it seems we have not met that threshold yet, as Scarlet and Violet seem to be smashing sales records left and right. It's interesting because I think every Pokemon fan can envision what the perfect Pokemon game would look like. The Pokemon's Breath of the Wild, if you will. And in most cases, this ideal game is completely feasible given the proper time and effort. Scarlet and Violet and Arceus were so close, and I just want to see a game that does the franchise justice and looks like it was made by the highest grossing media franchise of all time.